Isack Alexander Hadjar, you little beauty. A P3 podium in only his 15th Grand Prix race start, and a well-earned one at that. Lucky to benefit from Lando's DNF, of course, but he was running on merit in P4 ahead of both Mercedes and both Ferraris for that entire race. And to be honest, with very little fanfare coming into this season, the 20-year-old Parisian has made a hell of an impression. He's young and he's fast, too fast to ignore. The caveat, well, whenever a young Red Bull driver seems to succeed at that junior team, the immediate question is always asked: when are you getting in that top seat? The same seat that's chewed up and spat out Gasly, Albon, Perez and Lawson, and he's doing a job in Tsunoda at the minute. I'm ready for anything is what he says, but what will Red Bull actually do with him, and what's best for Isack? I mean, it's a good problem to have, but a problem nonetheless. My name's Tomo, his name's Minton. Let's talk about it. I'm making a concerted effort to call him Isack instead of Isaac because that's how he pronounces it himself. So apologies if I jump between the two because I got very used to calling him Isaac, alright, I'm sorry. But look, even prior to this 2025 Dutch Grand Prix in his P3 podium, he was still Rookie of the Year in most people's eyes, certainly mine. He's been the standout debutant this season. And in many ways that is because of how badly it started, right? I don't need to go over what happened in Australia. We've all seen the pictures. We all know how it ended. Incredibly tough for him to deal with. I can't even imagine the intensity of emotion he must have been going through, let alone at 20 years of age, man. Like 12 years younger than me. Damn. So straight out the gates, he had a huge test of his bounce back ability, his resolve, his resilience. All very, very important traits in an F1 driver. You're going to have these down days, and he got his biggest down day straight out the gates. And look, that moment could have easily defined his rookie season, right? We've seen many young driver and new prospect come into F1 and not make an impression, right? Sargent, De Vries, Latifi, Schumacher, would he be another driver that would end up on that scrap heap and be out early doors? Well, we'd only have to wait one more weekend, round 2 in China, to find out that's probably not going to be the case. Because you have to add the context that the Shanghai International Circuit was a circuit that Isack had never driven around before, ever, in his career. It's also a sprint weekend to boot, so you only get one FP1 as well, less preparation. And he had a teammate in Yuki Tsunoda who was well established in that team and driving at a very good level. And actually the first sign that weekend was positive. SQ1, Isack was P9 ahead of Yuki by about a 10th and a half. But unfortunately, China's very well-known turn 1, the long right-hander, caught him out in SQ2. Isack wasn't able to put a lap in, lined up P15. As for the race, a couple of positions gained, P13, no points in the sprint, nothing massively to write home about, but plenty of learning. Could he apply it to normal qualifying? In short, absolutely yes. In Q1, he was P2, within 2/10 of Lando in P1, and almost a 10th clear of Yuki in P3. Those racing balls were cooking. In Q2, Isack was P4, again ahead of Yuki, only fractionally this time, but by enough, which meant both racing balls were into Q3, and that's where Hadjar got the big job done, a 131.079, which would put him P7 ahead of Antonelli, Tsunoda and Albon. But not just ahead of Tsunoda, 0.559 ahead of Tsunoda. A big chunky gap in that final Q3 session, absolutely clutch. Again, that Racing Bulls was clearly quick around Shanghai, but for him to go quicker than Yuki in 4 out of those 5 qualifying sessions, SQ1, Q1, Q2 and Q3, huge. Second weekend, sprint weekend as well, the signs were there. But then again, 1 lap pace is never the biggest issue really with rookies, typically, is it? You get the ones who come in and are very quick over a lap, but making that work over a race distance, and the C word, that's the tough one. Consistency is rarely something you associate with junior rookie debutants in Formula 1. I mean, this season has proven that, okay? Gabby had a bunch of incidents earlier on in the season. He's got better now, but it was a difficult start. Kimi has a couple of top driver harpoons in Verstappen and Leclerc on his CV, and he punted Hadjar out as well. And look, Ollie, Jack and Franco have all been shown to be absolutely capable of an impromptu massive shunt. But as for Isack, look, his ability to not only put performances in, but keep it at the barriers, keep it clean and be consistent has stood him apart from the rest of the rookies, I think. Do you think so as well, Minton? Do you? Is that what you also think? Look at the way he just stopped growing before he got too big to go on my shoulder. But he loves it up here, didn't you? You love it up here. Although it's getting very hot in here, so I'm going to let him go downstairs. I mean, look, let's have a look at Isack's worst performances this year, at least on paper, right? In Spa, he finished P20 and last. However, he was running P8 earlier on in the race ahead of his teammate Liam Lawson. But once the track dried up, he was helpless. He had a power issue of some sort and just dropped like a stone. Everyone passing him with DRS. Didn't stand a chance, unfortunately. In Canada, he finished down in P16, but he did manage to qualify P9. However, in the race pace just didn't seem to be there for Liam as well. Liam was right at the back. Hard to know how much of this was Isack not having a great day or just the car not being suited to the characteristics of the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. And then, of course, in the biblical conditions in Silverstone, Isack did not finish the race because Kimi rear-ended him. To be fair, though, it was like visibility 0, so that's going to happen. Hadjar was running right towards the back, to be fair, as well, but those conditions were absolutely insane, so I'm giving him benefit of doubt on that one. So look, you take away those 3 results, and Australia, of course, where he didn't even start the race, and he hasn't finished lower than P13. He's averaged P9.2, with, of course, the P3 in Zandvoort being the cherry on top of a very, very nice looking cake. A podium in your debut season is always going to be special, and it clearly meant so much to Isack. I love how out there he is with his emotions as well, right? I think at times, and we've talked about this in the past in F2, where he'd get a bit flustered and hot-headed on the radio, but I think he's got on top of that straight away. Like, it's not become a consistent problem in Formula 1. I think Yuki struggled with that way more than Isack in the early stages of his F1 career. Both had a similar reputation, but Hadjar seems to have got on top of that. He's channeling his emotions in the right way, and it all came out. Honestly, got choked a little bit watching that, just seeing him just have an absolute vibe, look like a kid in a candy shop. It was proper feel good. But what did kind of bother me was the way he was immediately being asked about the Red Bull seat. Give the kid a chance to just enjoy it and not think about Red Bull and all the complicated nuance around that, right? He's done an incredible job in a Racing Bulls car. Let him have his flowers. Like the way Craig Slater was trying to get sound bites out of him in the little golf bag, and he was like, I've got to go because, yes, you have to go because you have to enjoy this. Like, you don't know how long you might be waiting for another podium. There's nothing guaranteed in the sport. Just ask Nico Hulkenberg. Racing Bulls have clearly developed a very capable car across Faenza and Milton Keynes with a very good operating window. That's the team to be at if you're a young driver coming into Formula 1. I know there's the links and the pressure at Red Bull Racing, but no team on the grid understands how to develop young talent, okay, how to foster an environment that allows rookies to succeed and thrive more than Racing Bulls, Toro Rosso, whatever you want to call it. Isack is yet another driver to come into that system and thrive and do bits and be linked with the top seat, but that is exactly why, in my opinion, he should stay put. Look, Red Bull as an organisation deserves huge credit for their funding of motorsport, and as much as their junior system has, you know, spat out a lot of young drivers along the way, it's also given so many opportunities and bankrolled a lot of opportunities for young kids. Not all of them make it to F1, sure, but most of them have a career in motorsport, which is more than most people could ask for. It might be cutthroat, I might not always agree with their methods, but the money is there in a sport that is all too reliant on money, unfortunately, and I think that's just the way it's always going to be. The 2026 prospect of a Red Bull Formula 1 seat is different and should be looked at differently to, you know, the Albon, Gasly, Perez, Lawson, Tsunoda swaps into that team, right? The biggest change, of course, is that this is going to be the first car ever in Red Bull racing history to not have Adrian Newey's fingerprints on it. And on from that, this is surely going to be the first Red Bull with a half-decent operating window, because they cannot afford for things to carry on as they are, where Max is the only person who can drive this car. Max is not going to be around forever, and in this day and age of F1, I know Max dominated in 2023, but I think the days of, you know, one driver winning a Constructors on their own are kind of behind us now. So with that, you could maybe justify putting Isack in for 2026, assuming that the operating window is going to be bigger, assuming that he'll be able to show his talent more than Gasly, Albon, Perez, Lawson and Tsunoda have been able to show it in that Red Bull. Maybe, but also maybe not. And do I think that gamble is worth it? I don't. They've clearly got someone very, very special here. Isack Hadjar is potentially top tier. Let's not ruin him, let's not break him, because realistically the chance of the Red Bull or Racing Bulls being at the front of the pack in 2026 is not particularly high. The assumption is Mercedes is going to have the best power unit, and it's going to be a bit of an engine formula, particularly at the start of these new regs. So much change is going on with senior management at Red Bull Racing, but also the car itself without Newey's fingerprints on it. Why then change the drivers as well? You're adding another variable that I don't think helps anyone. Genuinely, I think for everybody's best interest, including Isack, I think you stay put. You keep Max and Yuki in the 2026 Red Bull. You have 2 consistent years back to back, 25, 26. You see where Yuki's able to get closer to Max, where that operating window is, blah, blah, blah. That helps, right? I think that's a sensible, pragmatic choice from Red Bull, not to knee-jerk, right? Because we know Yuki has talent, we know he has ability, we've seen it. People were crying out for Yuki to be in that Red Bull for good reason, right? And it hasn't worked out amazingly. We know there's a good driver there, just like we didn't know that as much for Gasly and Albon at the time. We knew that for Perez, though. We definitely knew that for Perez, and I'm sure we'll see that at Cadillac. If Tsunoda impresses in the Red Bull and steps up and shows more of his ability and gets closer to Max in that bigger operating window, then great. That works great for Yuki, that works great for Red Bull Racing. We know Max's future is in doubt from, you know, maybe 27 onwards, right? And then that's maybe, okay, you slide Hadjar into the top seat if he has another really good year in the Racing Bulls. That consistent, solid environment, potentially a window opens up Red Bull Racing to either replace Max or Yuki. Then maybe you chuck Lindblad in Racing Bulls. I wouldn't be averse to keeping Liam as well in Racing Bulls. I think Liam does have more than what we're seeing from him right now. It's hard to say where Hadjar is doing such a good job, though. Is Liam worth that long term when you've got Hadjar, you've got Verstappen, and you've got Lindblad coming through? I don't know. Maybe I'd feel different if I was confident Red Bull would have a top car in 2026, but I don't think that's going to be the case. And I do also think, you know, if Red Bull can deliver a big operating window to Yuki Tsunoda and a top car, we will see him firing on all cylinders. I believe that. Maybe I'm biased, but I believe that. But then again, Red Bull may feel like their hand is forced somewhat. Maybe they feel like they don't have a choice. They have to put Isack into the Red Bull, otherwise they might lose him. Young rookie, blinding debut season, great personality to boot as well. Isack ticks a lot of boxes and should be looked upon by a solid chunk of the grid as a great long-term option for them as well. And if Hadjar doesn't get that Red Bull seat in 2026, should he be considering his options? Look, I think for me, he needs to try and learn maybe from Liam's situation, because Liam Lawson talked a lot about dreaming to be a Red Bull Racing driver, not just an F1 driver, but a Red Bull Racing driver. And how much of that was, you know, gas to try and get in that top seat? Maybe there's a bit of that. Perhaps that was somewhat naive, and I think Liam's readjusted those expectations. He wants to win a world championship, right? Of course, they all do. Is that necessarily going to happen at Red Bull Racing? Is that the best environment? You know, Mekies has now come in, and it's going to be a new look Red Bull. We're going to see a very different team, I think, from 2026 onwards, and maybe that's going to be a better team, maybe it's going to be a worse team in the short term. Sometimes you have to take one step back to go 2 steps forward. But the best thing for Isack right now is to be in an environment where he can succeed and showcase his talent to the world. And right now his stock is incredibly high. It's higher than any other rookie. That's the environment he needs to be in if he wants to get himself a top seat. Now, we don't know how the championship's going to look in 2026. Maybe Alpine are going to be the best car, right? Stranger things have happened. Well, that's pretty strange. But you never know. The risk for Hadjar is to move to Red Bull, have similar struggles to his predecessors, and then his stock goes way back down and the big seat passes it. 2027 is almost certainly going to see a lot of movement in the driver market, because then we will actually know, right, which of the teams who've smashed these new regulations and which have been smashed by them, the bangers and the clangers, right? Today, on the 1st of September 2025, Isack's stock is right up there. 365 days time on the 1st of September 2026, it might not be so high, it might be even higher. And the way I'm looking at it right now, I think actually probably Red Bull are slightly more incentivized to promote Hadjar than Hadjar is to push for the promotion himself. And look, in reality, he can't turn that opportunity down if it is offered to him. But the way Helmut Marko spoke about Hadjar after that Dutch Grand Prix victory, like, you don't hear him glazing about a driver that much, that often.
I called him the little Prost, the new one. in the early stage. What is also impressive, if he comes to a new circuit, after 3 laps he's competitive. All the engine side problems, he wasn't affected by that. He said, oh, I know where I have the speed and I will qualify in top 5, He promised that. So his self-confidence is also something outstanding.
I mean, other realistic options for 2027? I mean, 2027, there's probably only one team that I could not see Hadjar going to in any way, shape or form in 27, and that's probably Ferrari, because I think that's a Leclerc-Behrman lockdown. But so much can change over the course of 26 and into 27. Do one of the McLaren drivers decide, hang on, right, I'm going to go elsewhere? I think I've got a better chance because it's very tight between them two at the moment, maybe. And then Hadjar could come in. Prost was a McLaren driver. This is Petit Prost. Max might fully retire and chuck in the towel, and Mercedes might still be looking for a Kimi Antonelli replacement if he doesn't step up, or a George Russell replacement if he decides to, I don't know, lead the FIA or something. Science could give up on Williams, Alpine are French. The list goes on. But it all just comes back to that Red Bull second seat, doesn't it? 2026, Yuki can be the litmus test for whether that car has a wider operating window that can actually be driven by a known entity that Yuki is, right? He's a known entity now. He's been in F1 long enough for us to know where he stacks up. If that 26 car is more drivable, then great for Yuki, but also great for Isack, because then he knows, right, okay, this isn't as scary and terrifying a prospect as it has been in the past. And look, you've got to remember, Hadjar's only 20 still, right? He's 21 on the 28th of this month. He has a long career ahead of him in this sport, I am sure of it. But now the time is to double down, stick where you are. Your time will come. Thoughts and feelings on Petit Prost down below. My name's Tomo. Thanks again. Have a good one. Ta-da.